Hi, I'm Ian Ward, fortunate to become Wipers champion this year, and the thing we've all been chasing, us river matchmen, to become 2019 RiverFest champion. I've got to put it down, a lot of it, to the ground bait on both occasions. This is Angling Bait Company's Match Pro River and Match Pro Roach. Match Pro River was developed, as it says, for all forms of river fishing and all forms of river species. It's absolutely superb mix on its own. The Match Pro Roach was produced for, as it says on the bag, roach, and it's worked absolutely superb on where roach dominate on the venues. But what I like to do come the winter months, and it's stood the test of time now when we were developing it and over the last 2 years, is I like to utilise both ground baits, that being the roach and the river, which I mix then with soil. So what I'll be mixing today is 2 kilos of river, 2 kilos of roach and a kilo of soil. Right, so what I'm going to do is run you through the process of how I mix my ground baits. What I like to do is I like to put all the components of the ground bait, soil and roach and river, in dry, and then mix them up so they have a nice dry consistency prior to me adding the water. We'll go through this process with you. Right, as I say, what I've done now is I've put the 2 kilo bag of roach, 2 kilo bag of Pro River and the kilo of soil. What I'll basically be doing now is mixing them dry with a whisk, one of my own inventions I make, but absolutely superb. So what we're doing now is just making sure that all them components are thoroughly whisked and mixed through prior to the water going in. So as you see, I'm happy enough with that. So we've got a nice dry consistency, everything's mixed in, the soil and all the rest. So what we'll do now, what I like to do is add small amounts of water to the mix. And make sure, as you're doing this, each process of adding the water, that you make sure that it's gone right the way through them ground baits. And just keep feeling it. Just keep. You want a nice firm consistency, but you don't want it over wet. Just have to say, this is why I actually designed these whisks myself, because they do no damage to the bucket, but they also, as you can see, mix the ground bait absolutely perfectly without any form of lump. And I think if you'll agree with me there, as you see I'm mixing it, there's not a lump in there. Just starting to hold and bind together how you want it. So we'll add a little bit more. And as I say, with this you can get away with mixing sort of 5 kilo at a time. It's they've been an absolute godsend. Cordless drills and whisks. When you spend hours prior making the mix. But again, as you can see, there's not a lump, and that's just getting somewhere near where I would consider I like it. I don't like it over wet, because obviously you've got to remember when you're adding hemp or you're adding casters or whatever bait, obviously, especially with hemp, it's got a lot of moisture in it. If you get it up to the consistency you want without bait, and then you're adding them particular items, they can tend to over wet the ground bait, and that's when people have issues. So we'll just put a small amount in there again. And make sure that mix is thoroughly mixed. And we'll just have a little look at this. Just a tiny bit more, but as I say, there's an old adage, what you put in you can't take back out. So as I say, take your time when you're doing this. I say most of the time, I know in what particular venues I'm going on, and I know ground bait's going to be one of the main things you need. My suggestion is it gives you more time for setting up and setting all your equipment up on the match day and everything, is do it the night prior. Mix it the night prior, freeze it down, not freeze it down, fridge it down, and you know, it's a process you don't have to worry about in the morning. So we'll just have a look at this now. There you go. So what we'll do is we'll just mix a bowl, and I'll show you what I love about this mix. There you can see I've got quite a compact bowl, which you can do by hand obviously when you get your embarcaster, but if you put your hand in there, it just breaks up, returns back to its normal state. Really is such a versatile mix. Really is. To say, Match Pro Roach and River was the winning formula for the 2019 RiverFest final and the white pears. This is a mix I've used, and you know, numerous match wins over the last 3-4 years since we've been sort of, you know, in prior to production and just in development. The only thing I will say, obviously, because this is a fresh mix, is that it's really nice now. What I suggest, always leave it 10 to 15 minutes. You know, as I say, if you've done it the night before the match, when you get to your match, you can just damp it up a little bit. Leave it 10 to 15 minutes so it does, you know, obviously because the ingredients, it ingests everything right the way through. And then say 10-15 minutes later, just put your whisk through it, and it will be just a minimal amount of water. That ground bait is bang on for the whole of the day. I've used it actually as well, obviously without the soil. It can really make a good feeder mix as well. What I tend to do also in the winter is that, again, especially on the Y, so this is, you know, not so much on the 7 and the Y. As you can see here, I've got freshly crushed hemp. This is not cooked hemp. This is, you know, in its natural state, put through a miller. Dennis does it, and what we do is I tend to find that works absolutely fantastically. You know, I'll probably put a kilo of that into the mix I use on the Y, because it works absolutely superb. It just gives it an extra binding agent, and obviously we all know with rivers that you know, there's nothing better for roach and dace, and they love hemp. They love hemp, and the oils and trace elements that come off it are absolutely superb. So that's the other thing the only other thing I add to this mix. But as I say, you know, do yourself a favour, give it a go.